Hey, what's up, guys? I wanted to show you in this video real quick how to do a listing agreement. Um, so I'm going to show you real quick. Let me share my screen real fast here. And basically, for the listing agreement, I mean, really all you need to know is the property address and kind of some of the information that we're going to go over. And you can go ahead and get started with it. So the first thing you're going to do is, MiamiRealtors.com, click on Miami Gateway. We're going to go to Form Simplicity. And we'll also open up IMAP as well. We'll open up Form Simplicity and IMAP. So the reason that we want IMAP is because we want to find the property. So I'm just going to use a property that we just listed here as an example. So let's go ahead and look up this property real quick. This one's in Broward County. So I'm going to change the county here, and I'm going to put the property address, 5301 Southwest, 178th Ave. And the reason we want to find this real quick on IMAP is because in the listing agreement, we're going to want to put both whoever the buyers and sellers, whoever the sellers are, you're going to want to put the address, and it's going to also ask for the legal description. So we're going to want to put all that. So going back now to Form Simplicity, gonna look for. We can simply start with blank forms, or let's go ahead and start a new transaction. So we'll start a new transaction, and we'll put the address again, 5301 Southwest, 178th Ave. Transaction name, I like to call them the same as the address. For me, it's easier to find, but if you want to call the transaction name something else, you're more than welcome to. Property type residential, transaction type listing, and we're gonna go ahead and check one of these. So we're gonna do residential listing seller. Okay, create transaction, and already the document that's gonna come up here is gonna be the exclusive right of sale listing agreement. So when we created a transaction and we chose residential listing seller, it automatically populated these documents. Now, this is a single family home, so this seller property disclosure for a condominium is not going to apply. So you could always go ahead and just delete that. And then you just simply want to work on the exclusive right of sale listing agreement with consent to transition to a transaction broker. And as always, you should always do the seller's disclosure as well if you're gonna have a listing. So, but like I said, this video we're gonna go over how to fill out the listing agreement. So let's get into it real quick. And basically, most of the stuff you're gonna do is in this first page. The very first thing you're gonna want to do is copy paste the seller from IMAP. So it's very simple. We just copy paste. Broker. I'm not sure why this HE is coming out, but this is Yamil and Maribel. Broker is Element Real Estate Group. And then, this area here is going to ask you, when does the listing agreement start? So standard time is 6 months, the term for a listing agreement, but that's always negotiable. It could be more, it could be less, it could be 3 months, it could be 2 months, it could be a year. But for this case, let's just say that the listing starts tomorrow, and we'll do 6 months. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we'll do May 17th. So we'll just say that it's 6 months. The street address, again, going back to, sorry guys, going back to IMAP, we'll get the street address. We just copy and paste. And we'll put this here. When you copy and paste, the address kind of populates down here. So if you hit backspace, it'll put it on the same line. Legal description, we can just go ahead. Now we have a really long legal description here. So I don't think it's all going to fit. So what I like to do, if it doesn't fit, no, it's not going to fit. So what I like to do here is see additional terms for hold on, I write this right. Additional terms for full legal description. And then we go to let's fast forward really quick to additional terms. And then we just like to put the legal description here if it doesn't fit. All right. Go back to the first page. Which appliances are included? So let's just assume in this case, we know refrigerator, washer, dryer, the range, stove, microwave. Let's say we know all that's included. We can go ahead and put it here. If we're not sure at the time of doing the listing agreement, just leave it blank and you could always just add it later. Here is going to say if the property is or is not occupied by a tenant. Let's just assume it's not. So we'll hit no, it's not occupied by a tenant. But if it were, you would obviously check the box that is occupied by a tenant and you would put when does the lease expired. All right. Purchase price here, I think $950 was the list price. And here you would put in this next line, line 23, you would put what are the terms acceptable. So in this case, cash and conventional. However, for your property, VA and FHA financing are options that are doable. Then you can go for those as well. We should actually do VA as well here because there's no purchase limit on the VA. So they could actually potentially do a VA loan on this property. So cash, conventional, and VA. Now, everything else after this from line 24 all the way down. So all this section right here that I'm highlighting, this is all has to do with seller financing. Most of the time, guys, when you do a listing agreement, you're very rarely going to do seller financing. But if you were to do that, this is where you highlight all the terms, this whole area. But again, 99% of the time, you know, the seller's not doing any seller financing, so we could just go ahead and move on. And that's really the first page, guys. It's just, again, basic information of the property, purchase price, and what are the terms that are accepted. Okay. Moving on to the second page. A few things here you want to know. It talks about the broker authority and what we're allowed to do. There's some options here where you can check this here if you're going to use the seller's name in connection with marketing or advertising the property. Guys, we never do that. You never really use the seller's name when you're advertising the property. And then there's also another box here that says seller does not authorize broker to display property on the MLS. Again, we want to put the property on the MLS. So you don't check this box ever, unless for whatever reason, it's not going to go on the MLS. But again, that's not common. Most of the times we're always putting our listings on the MLS. All right. So you want to go ahead and down here, starting in line 68, there's a couple of boxes that you want to check. If you're going to be using a lockbox to give access to the property, you're going to want to check here, use a lockbox system. All right. There's also two more boxes down here which say withhold verbal offers and withhold all offers once seller accepts a contract. You know, I usually don't check these boxes, guys. You don't have to withhold verbal offers. If you want to, you can. But I usually don't because sometimes sellers will say, well, if somebody tells you they want to put an offer, I want to know about it. And that's fine. But I always just educate the sellers that, you know, a verbal offer means nothing. All it is verbal. Until we actually have a contract, we really have nothing. And, you know, once they accept the contract, even if we get another offer, there's really no way for us to know. There's really no way for us as a seller to really back out of a contract. The only time we really can back out of a contract is if for some reason the buyer breached the contract. But there's really no options for the seller to ever opt out. So getting an offer once the seller accepts another offer, it really means nothing because the other offer is already accepted. All right. But again, so if you're going to use a lockbox, check this one. If you're not, then don't check it, and then pretty much don't check anything else here. All right. Moving on, two more options here. And it basically says seller does not authorize an automated estimate of the market value of the listing to be displayed in conjunction with the listing. So an automated estimate of the market value, guys, is basically a website that shows the listing and also shows an estimate of what the property is worth. Again, the biggest one we know, obviously, is Zillow. So if you check this box, guys, that means the property can't go on Zillow because they're basically saying, I don't authorize for you to put my listing in a website that also shows the value of it or an estimate of the value of it. So we don't want this guy. We don't want to check either of these two boxes. We want to be able to put the property on Zillow, on Trulia, on Realtor.com, on all websites, as much reach as possible. You want to be able to do that. So generally speaking, you don't want to check these boxes. But if you do, that means that pretty much the property is not going to be going on Zillow, and it's going to be going on a very limited amount of websites. All right. And then finally on this page, the last part, guys, is you have a little space here for any necessary disclosures that the seller needs to disclose. So it says here that, you know, the seller is required, they're obligated to make all legally required disclosures, including all facts that materially affect the property's value and are not readily observable or known by the buyer. So this line here, guys, it's very small. I mean, if you want to try to, if there is some sort of disclosure they need to explain, you very rarely are you going to have enough space here to like kind of write that out. The best thing you can do is do a seller's disclosure, the document that we saw when we created the transaction, and just put it all in the seller's disclosure. If you want to put in here whatever you need to put, if it's something simple, like for example, there's a roof leak, you can put here roof leak. If they know that there's termites on the property, roof leak and termites known to be in the property. So if you know of things like that, you can fill it out here. But really the best place, guys, is to put it on the seller's disclosure. Moving on, we have now compensation. So commission. So this is how you're going to fill this out. Let's assume the commission is 6% here. So you want to put that the commission, okay, seller will compensate broker 6% of the total purchase price plus 0 or 0. Most of the time, guys, it's just 6% and that's it. If there is some other type of compensation, or if it's not a percentage and it's a flat fee, then you would put it here, the flat fee. You would put obviously 0 as a percentage plus 0, or, $5,000. I don't know, whatever flat fee you agree upon. But most of the times, guys, it's going to be a percentage. So you would put here 6%. Over here, generally, you want to put 0 and 0. What this means, guys, is in case there was seller financing, you could put here what the commission would be. And in case the property is also for lease, you could put what the commission would be in case the property was leased. But in this case, it's 6% of the total purchase price because we're selling the property. We're not leasing it or doing any kind of option or seller financing. All right. Moving on, guys, we have a little protection period here. I usually like to put 180 days. And what this typically does is it's a protection period. Basically, let's say for whatever reason the seller cancels the listing. All this paragraph here says is that within 180 days, if the seller sells the property to somebody that you showed the property to, you're due a commission, okay? There's a lot more to it than that, and there's there's ifs and little things like that we have to go through to really determine if you are due that commission. But this is generally what that is. If within 6 months the seller says they can, so if within 6 months they sell it to somebody that saw the property because of your marketing efforts or while you had the listing, they typically will owe the commission. All right. Retained deposits, guys, usually here we'll put the default 50%. Basically says in the event that the seller, a contract is done and the buyer defaults and the seller is due that deposit, we usually, as consideration for our efforts and the work we put into the deal, we usually keep half of the deposit. All right. Most of the times, in reality, guys, that deposit will fully go back to the client, especially if the deal is, if you're still going to continue listing it, because honestly, you look kind of bad if after you put the seller through all the stress and all these things happen, taking half of the deposit. Sometimes the sellers kind of look at that like, they get a little like upset, like, really, you're going to take half of my deposit? But we could always negotiate that later. But we you know, we start in the agreement, we always put 50% to go ahead and get started. Now, finally, guys, cooperation and compensation to other brokers. So remember, up here, we did compensation to broker, us, the broker. Okay. Now we're talking about cooperation and compensation to other brokers. What are we going to give other brokers? All right. So this is pretty simple. What you want to do is check this box, and you would put 3%. Check this box and put 3%. And you would check this box and put 3%. I mean, that's generally speaking what most people do. Basically, all that says, guys, is why does it say 3%, 3%, 3%? Because it's basically saying, depending on the type of representation that the buyer's agent has, we're going to pay him a certain amount. So the first one says if they're a single agent, if the buyer's agent is a single agent, we're going to pay him 3%. If the buyer's agent is a transaction broker, we're going to pay them 3%. And if the buyer's agent has a no brokerage relationship, we're still going to pay 3%. A lot of times, sometimes agents here will put nothing. Like, we're not going to pay somebody that's has a no brokerage relationship. It's very rare, guys. Hardly ever do you see a realtor bring a buyer that has a no brokerage relationship. But if you want to put that, if you want to put maybe 1%, you're more than welcome to do that. Some realtors do change it up here. So they'll put 3% for a single agent, 3% for a transaction broker, and they'll put like 1% or 0 for a a realtor with a no brokerage relationship. All right. So yeah. So summarizing this page, guys, 6% of the total purchase price goes to the broker, and we're giving 3% back to a buyer's agent if they bring the buyer. If you're able to find the buyer yourself, then you're due the full 6%. Okay, you're the 6% will all go to you. You will not be sharing that with anybody, because there is no other broker to share the commission with. All right. Moving on, guys. Here basically is a single agent notice. It just talks about the duties that as a single agent you have to that seller, and they have to sign and date here. And then over here, we have to put in Element Real Estate again. It just talks about the duties that you owe as a transaction broker. So it over here it goes single agent, and when you transition to a transaction broker, this is the representation and the duties that we have to the seller, and they have to also sign and date that. Termination, guys, cancellation fee. It's up to you what you want to put. I usually put $250. There's realtors that put $500. There's realtors that put $1,000. There's realtors that put $0. It's up to you. What I recommend is, if you're gonna do marketing, if you're gonna do, if you're gonna run Facebook ads for your listing, if you're gonna print out flyers, if you're gonna do an open house, you want to get something back for your time. I mean, $250 is probably like the minimum. But again, if it's up to you what you want to put here. If you really, some realtors will put a very high cancellation fee. They'll put $1,500, $2,000, and that pretty much is to make sure you tie the seller to the property, and it's very hard for them to cancel, because they would have to pay that cancellation fee. But a lot of times sellers will see that and they're like, man, if I have to cancel, I'm gonna have to pay you $2,000. So it gets, it gets very tough. So you gotta know how to have that conversation with the seller if you're gonna put a big cancellation fee like that. So, but my recommendation, guys, is really put between $250 to $500. Most of the times that'll work. That'll give you your money back for the time spent. If 2-3 weeks later they decide, oh, I'm not gonna sell anymore, or I don't need to sell and I want to cancel the listing, whatever it may be. Okay. Finally, guys, the final page, we have additional terms here. We put the legal description here. You can put other things, anything else that you want to put here, guys, anything out of the ordinary, any terms that you negotiate with the seller, you can type them up here, and they'll be effective. So any additional things, like, for example, just a quick example, you can say, if broker and seller agree that in the event that the home has not received any offers within 20 days of being on the market, the seller agrees to drop price, to reduce price to 925,000. So this is a good way to, like, if you're having a back and forth about listing price, you could always put that. Listen, if within 20 days we don't get an offer, you agree that you're going to reduce the price to 925. Can you agree with that, Mr. Seller? So if they do, you can put it here. But the whole point, guys, that I'm trying to teach you is you can really put anything here, anything at all. You can just word it however you want. You can put it here. You want to put seller wants to sign here, sign and date. Buyer, you as an agent can sign here and date. And then at the bottom of every page, guys, seller has to initial at the bottom of every page. And then you as the sales associate, it doesn't have to be the broker. You can initial here, and you can initial here, and do the same thing in every single page. The last thing I'll say, guys, is this section right here, line 199. The seller, you want the seller to initial here, you initial here, and then you're gonna want to email this to me to also e-sign my, to also do my initials here electronically. And basically what that does is that in the event that mediation cannot solve any type of dispute, the seller agrees that we'll agree to whatever arbitration rules. So we'll go to arbitration. We'll go towards a third-party judge, and whatever they agree, if there's any disputes, we're agreeing to go by that. That's all that says. So yeah, so guys, if you have any questions, anything at all, once you get this, you just save it, and you can exit out of it, and you can, if you need to download it, you can check the little box here and hit download. You don't want to download it as a zip file, just download it as a regular PDF. You submit, and if you're using Google Chrome, it should show here, or it should download to whatever folder on your computer that you're using. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much the way you go ahead and fill out that listing agreement. If you have any other questions while you're filling it out, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm always here for you guys. Whatever questions come up. I know sometimes maybe your listing is a little different, or you have a question or a doubt about something. Feel free to reach out. All right. Have a great day.